So, how did my first ever 5k on the road turn into 7.4k? Well, this is how. I planned a route on Strava of where I was going to run from, where I was going to run to. And it was part of a loop that would eventually loop back round to my house if I decided to go that far. But my intention was to go about 3/4 of the way, which would put me just over the 5k mark, and that was my plan. So I set off with the intention of just doing 5k. It's not something I'd done ever before. The furthest distance I'd travelled was 2.2 miles at the time. So I'd made a decision that actually what I wanted to really do was just get to 2.2 miles, see how I felt, and hopefully keep going. A lot of positive thinking, a lot of self-talk, which I find really, really helps me. I was running along to some music, but I was still in my own world. I was still kind of, if you like, talking to myself and just reminding myself that I knew I could do the distance, and it was more about doing that distance rather than trying to aim for a particular time. Of course, it doesn't always help when you're seeing people online posting videos about trying to get down to 20 minutes for a 5k and all of these things, but nevertheless, I'm focused on myself and my journey, not anybody else's. But I have found their videos quite useful in terms of tips and advice. And so I got to 2.2 miles and I looked down at my phone and I realised that I was still in a position where I could actually keep going. I felt good. And then as I got towards 2.5 miles and 2.6, 2.7, 2.8, I realised actually I was going to do it. I knew I was going to do it. I did have my phone set to miles, and at the time I couldn't quite remember what that equivalent was for 5k. I thought it was around 3.2 miles, so I got to 3.3, and I knew at that stage that I definitely exceeded the 5k, and I'd done that in 29:25, and that does take into account uphill and downhill gradients as well, which meant it was a little bit more challenging mile to mile. It wasn't a necessarily consistent pace all the way. And then as I got to 3.5 miles, I kind of realised that I was not too far from home. And at that stage I thought, okay, I'll get to 4 miles and I'll stop, because that would be a pretty large distance for me as a kind of first time out. And then when I got to 4 miles, I realised, again, I'm not too far away from my house, so I kept going, and I think it was top of my head now, 49:41. I came in at 4.4 miles. I think it's 4.4 miles. I'll do a screenshot. 7.4k, something like that. Anyway, that might be slightly off, but I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that actually I was able to do it. I was so pleased I didn't stop at the 5k, because sometimes you don't actually realise your potential until you continue to push yourself. And that's been my main goal through all of this, is to make progress, push myself, be mentally strong, be physically comfortable with what I'm doing, but actually know that there is going to eventually be a wall and be a limit. But just to keep encouraging myself to keep going until I find that. And for the last week or so, I've been running 2.2 miles and kind of stopping because that was my loop. And only on one occasion did I feel like I could keep going. And today was a real, I feel like, kind of exceptional circumstance where I didn't feel like I was the best physical condition ever. I'm still recovering from the Murph challenge the other day, which was really tough on my body. But I was kind of blown away really today by what I was able to do in terms of tips for other people. I find it's easier to run to landmarks and to run for distance. I was really aware of the time. I was really aware of how many miles. I kept looking down at my phone. But now I know what the loop represents. I know where the landmark is for 5k. I can just run to that 5k and not worry about what my phone is telling me. I did eat before. It wasn't so close in terms of time before I left. It was probably like 45 minutes. I should have left a bit longer, but of course at the time I wasn't expecting to run the distance I did. And slight pain for me was that when I set off running, it was really overcast. It was due to rain, so I thought, well, that's fine, I can handle that. Then of course the sun came out. It went to 23. Whew, that was tough work, really, really tough work. But today represents the first day I have run 5k on the road, and that turned into over 7k, and it's just a real fantastic moment for me, and a moment of celebration that 9 days ago, when I decided to start this journey. I had no idea I'd actually get to this stage so quickly, and yeah, I'm seriously pleased. So thank you for watching this video, and the journey continues.